and a very happy new year to you indeed. Right at the very beginning of this year, I want to confirm a really important announcement, and it is that yet again I have not been included in the New Year's honours list. Now, I offer this to you not to ask for your sympathy, but quite simply to tell you of something of which you can depend. And dependence is something that we've really lacked, isn't it, in this last months? Things upon which we can build a certainty, things upon which we can be absolutely sure that they're not going to change and move. For all that these last 10 months or so have been, I think the one thing that we've learnt how to cope with is to be adaptable, that things can change at the last minute. And if you're anything like me, it's left you just with this deep desire for something upon which I can depend and be sure about, that's not going to change. This first Sunday in the new year is a Sunday that is the nearest for us to the season, the Feast of Epiphany, the coming of the wise men meeting with Jesus. It's recorded in Matthew's Gospel in the 2nd chapter. We know the story so very, very well indeed. Matthew, I think, includes within that a kernel of a truth that is about if we follow certain actions, then something is the outcome. It's a sure, fast certainty of something that's going to happen. He says that the wise men, the magi, those that have travelled from the east, now come and find the Christ child. It says they enter into the house and there they see Mary and the child. And then he gives us these 3 key steps, if you like, for which we can know that, 2 and 2 equals 4, 5 and 5 equals 10. What he says is this: when they met with the Christ child, the first thing that they did was that they bowed down. Now, I think this is really important because it talks about a stance that we take in the presence of God. Here were guys that had been on a journey. They had been searching. They had travelled, we know, for maybe 2.5 years. They'd followed the signs in nature. They'd looked to the skies to see something that they did not yet know, but they knew with a certainty as they could have, with all the knowledge that they had, that if they followed the signs, they would meet with the one who was to be born, King of the world, King of the universe. And so all their knowledge, all their searching, all the wisdom that they had brought into the preparation of this journey, now they meet a child, not a fellow scholar, not somebody who is in a royal palace with all the trappings and the trimmings of royalty, but in a humble house. They see something in this child that causes them to bow down, to lay aside everything that they have known to be sure, and to see something that is beyond their experience, that in a sense is beyond their rational nature, and it causes them to do something, not just to stand and to look, not just to say, well, what a lovely child, but they bow down. Some translations say they knelt before him. It was a physical act that they were caused to do. Now, for some of us, we're very happy, it seems, to seek from a distance, as long as it doesn't cost us anything, as long as it doesn't touch our status. When we come into the presence of God, I want to suggest to you that it actually does cause us to have a physical response. The second thing that Matthew says is that not only did they bow down, but they worshipped him. Now, if the first was a physical response, the second is something that engages deep from within the emotions. The many places that I love to go and visit and to see is the Grand Canyon. And one of the things that it does for me that lots of other places fail to do is it causes me to be filled with a sense of absolute awe and wonder. So literally, as I walk around the rim, every corner, there's something that causes me to say, wow, that brings something from within me, an expression that needs to be said out loud. Worship is the emotional response when we recognize how unworthy we are, that we come into the presence of God who is worth so much more. And it produces from within us not just an intellectual movement, but something that engages in the whole of our being. We worship. It's an expression of what is within that now has to be come out from us as well. Worship that doesn't engage is not worship. It's just observation. That's all. And then Matthew says that he did the third thing. The third thing, and I think that if the third element has any worth and purpose to it, it needs the first two. And the third thing is that he says they opened up their treasures. Now, we know it's gold, frankincense and myrrh, but I think it's much more than that. I think it is that they opened up everything that they had. They offered to him gold, frankincense and myrrh because that was the totality of what they had in that moment. But a gift, a real gift, is not something that has monetary value, but something that is an expression of something that is much, much more deeper. A gift is always more than we can afford to give. And this is what they did. Once they had bowed down, once they had worshipped, then they were able to give. For some of us, we've been brought up with a tendency that says that if we just give something, that's enough. If we're not careful, it can almost be perceived to be a bribery. But that's not a gift, you see. A bribery isn't, a gift isn't something that we do because we want something in return. A true gift is something that we offer because we know that we cannot give enough to say thank you for that which we have received. I wonder, as you have come to worship this morning, in whatever format that takes, in whatever place that happens to be, I wonder if it's something that has engaged both your intellect, your emotions, and also an offering from your heart. I do pray that that is so. And I pray that as we get better at this worship, as we get better at bowing down before him, as we can offer him more and more just what we have, who we are, that actually we will get to know the God upon whom we can depend, who is solid from beginning to end, from Alpha Omega, more and more as this year unfolds. Let me share a prayer with you. Lord, may we be like the wise men who were guided to you by a star. Give us the wisdom to seek you, light to guide us to you, courage to search until we find you, graciousness to worship you, and generosity to lay our gifts before you, who are our King and our God, forever and ever. Amen.
There are moments on our journey following the Lord where God illumines every step we take. There are times when circumstances make perfect sense to us as we try to understand each move he makes. When the path grows dim and our questions have no answer, heart of your Father when the answer goes beyond what you can see. Bow the knee, lift your eyes toward heaven and believe the one who holds eternity. And when you don't understand the purpose of his plan, in the presence of the King, bow the knee. There are days when clouds surround us and the rain begins to fall. The cold and lonely winds won't cease to blow, and there seems to be no reason for the suffering we feel. We are tempted to be